you constantly replay that in your mind, you are releasing those same chemicals that were released at the time of the trauma.
Yep.
So by staying stuck, you're staying stuck in your trauma. You know this. And sometimes we just can't help it. And then we're like, we need to think about the future. We need to think about where we're going. But then you're future tripping,
Hmm.
right? So it's a very interesting balance between not going back and you actively have to think about it. I'm thinking about that again. Okay, I need to stop thinking about that because those are the chemicals being released in my body right now,
Right.
which cause the trauma, cause the tension, cause the injury, cause this,
Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Rena, and welcome to Awakening Soul Divinity. And I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so excited. I've got this wonderful human being right here next to me. I don't know what side is correct, Debbie. And I'm going to have her talk to you about what she does. But I met her at a fall festival at Celestial Wellness, and we just started talking and meshed on some of the ideals and ideas that we have are very similar. And I thought, hey, why don't I ask her to, be be an interviewee on the podcast? And fun times. I lost my voice, so we're sounding a little gravelly here today, but doesn't matter, not stopping us. And I'm so happy you're here, Debbie, and I'm so grateful. And I just like to welcome you. How are you?
thank you. Thank you for having me, of course.
Yeah.
Doing well. Doing
Good.
well.
Good. So, can you tell us about like the kind of work that you do in this world? Because that's how I met you. I want you to just kind of share what you do to help people.
Of course. So I started with a background in education that morphed into physical fitness, and I became a personal trainer. I racked up a lot of certifications over the years as we have to get continuing education credits. So I got certified in nutrition and youth exercise and group exercise and golf fitness and yoga. And then I decided that I was going to get engaged and move back to Costa Rica. And when I did, I underwent a major life quake transition, as we say. And when I came back, I decided that I didn't decide, I had this calling and went through this transition into mindset coaching and motivational speaking for women. I want to, or at the time and still do, wanted to be the person that I needed most in my darkest days. And I want to teach other women how to be that person, that light, that strength, that hope for their darkest days.
Yeah, and now's a
I
good time
want to
for
teach
that for
them.
sure.
Yeah. I want to teach them everything that I learned
Yeah.
so along the way. So
Yeah,
that's
and that's
what I'm
usually
doing.
how that works. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I really appreciate that because as women, from my own experience, and I'm going to ask you a question related to this after I share this, it's like being fit, or I don't even like that word, working out in whatever capacity, like right now, because I overworked myself in the gym and now I need to do something a little less pushy. But any movement, let's just say that any movement for the body creates strength, and not just body strength. It creates strength in the mind, it creates strength in life, it creates self-esteem, it creates all these different things. And for women, I feel personally from my own experiences that that's a huge deal, because when I don't work out, or when I don't do when I work out on my computer with my fingers, that's one thing, right? But when I don't walk, or I don't go to do something movement, you have to move. I
Yes.
feel terrible. So there's this huge mind body connection.
Yes.
So in that mind body connection piece, can you share how working with the body in nutrition and as a trainer, how that helps the process of healing from trauma, and how it creates strength in women, who have low self-esteem or addictions or have been through abuse, what does that look like?
That's such a deep question because that's like I could go on for hours in all different directions with that.
So
But
first,
going back to what you asked, what it is that I do, it is a big umbrella of health and well-being, of holistic health and well-being.
yeah.
And underneath that umbrella are different modalities and different methods. What I say is, my slogan is the E3 method is elevate your mind, elevate your body, elevate your world. So you can't just work out physically and not work out mentally. And you can't just deal with the mental and not do the physical because the physical releases chemicals, feel good, happy hormones, chemicals in your brain that make you feel good.
Mhm.
And unless you integrate them together,
Yeah.
and a healthy whole food diet. Well, I don't like the word diet, but healthy whole food nutrition
Yes, thank you.
to feel good from the inside out.
Yeah.
And we talk about the mind body connection in fitness as in something as simple, which is actually really not that simple, but when you're working a body part, putting the mind on the body part that you're working. So I could sit here and do bicep curls and talk to you all day and nothing's going to happen because I'm not really paying attention, right? But if I sit there and I actually think about my bicep with every rep, I concentrate on that bicep, such a difference in the
Yeah.
workout. And so that's just one angle of the mind body connection. And it has that much power to change the way that your body adapts or changes with exercise. Imagine what it involves when you're thinking about everything else, right? Where your mind is, you're working on exercising your mind and clearing your mind and doing all of that. The body, I mean, there's a book, we all know the book, The Body Keeps Score,
Yep.
but the body does keep score.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I underwent my own trauma, and I've been through traumas, but the body and the mind get to decide the degree of the trauma, right? So
Mhm.
what may be traumatic to me may not be traumatic to you because it's all dependent upon my upbringing and my personal history and my DNA and everything else. So when I underwent my trauma, my body was in fight or flight, and then it shut down and it froze. And all those chemicals, the circadian rhythm, the cortisol, the hormones, the testosterone, the progesterone, everything skyrocketed. And you really have to work from the mind first in order to flip it and calm it and get through it. And you also have to work on the body too. You can't stop moving,
Mhm.
right? So at that time in my life when I was learning all of that, I mean, I really had no desire to get up out of bed every day because it was just so overwhelming everything that I had to do and rebuild.
Mhm.
But the one thing that I would do is let's just start with walking the dog.
Yeah.
Let's just go for a walk. And then let's just go to the gym. I don't really feel like working out, but at least I'm going to go there. And I might do one or two things. And then because the body is, trying to release those chemicals and try to flip everything. So that mind body connection is huge. It really is.
Yeah, and what's interesting, like I've studied a lot of this stuff because years ago I was a massage therapist, so I got into the whole anatomy, physiology stuff, and yeah, you saw my eyes roll twice actually. I'll tell that's a whole nother story. But speaking in reference to the body keeps the score, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Researched with combat veterans. And I'm
Yes.
a veteran, so I was very interested in that to see what that was about. And basically, and then I took a class in trauma informed coaching at one point because I really wanted to understand not just from my perspective what my experiences were, but from like a broader uh, under undertone of what all this stuff is, right?
Right.
So I love piecing. I used to love puzzles when I was a kid. So I kind of find these things and kind of piece them together. And what the body keeps the score did for me was it helped me to see that the body is probably even more important than the mind in all cases in life, because it's our vessel. That's what we live through.
Yes.
and when we're traumatized, it gets stuck in our physiology, but we don't know that. We're thinking it's this. And so I've had the last, I think it was a couple of interviews ago, I had a conversation with a therapist slash coach. And my experience in working with therapy over 30 years was it got to the point where it like stopped working for me because it was the cognitive piece. It makes sense. It helped me to understand what was going on with me or what was happening in the moment, but it didn't help it when I'm starting to go into this whole body response
Right.
thing.
Right.
And so when I did that, I'm like watching by this point, I'm observing myself and my body's going crap. I'm like, what's going on with you? And
Yep.
this was a couple of years ago for me. So I went on this like my own little journey back then. And that's where I fell into all this body stuff because, like I said, the mind understands what to do or not to do, or it thinks it does, or what's going on or whatever. But the body is our GPS system. The heart is our GPS system. The feelings are our GPS. The healing portion of the body is not only clearing out the nervous system from the trauma. It's a combination of keeping the body healthy because when we're moving, it doesn't give our body a chance to contract because that's what happens when we go into trauma. The body contracts and that's where we start to go into these protective modes and stuff and that kind of thing. And then we can't it's challenging at best to get out of it. You just
Yeah.
said it, you couldn't get off, basically couldn't get off your couch. I've been on a couch that I couldn't get off for 10 days. I know what that feels like. And
Yep.
it's like it's a contraction in the body. Literally your body does this for
Yes.
protection. So by working out, by walking, any form of exercise, breath work, any form of somatic healing, that type of thing. So the body is just like, in my mind personally, and that's why I appreciate having you on here, it is so, 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 so important for healing. And it's not just the cognitive therapy. Now it's like a combination of doing both. So you understand your story, and you release your story and you heal through your body. And when the body is healed, there's more. That's where the self-esteem comes in, and that's where the sovereignty comes in. And yeah, could you talk about
Yes.
that a
The
little?
interesting thing, let's talk about what happened to the body when I went through trauma,
Yeah.
despite the obvious, which was 15-pound weight loss.
Mm,
Okay. And the contraction that you speak of in my back and my neck and my thoracic spine, where I've never really had problems. Well, in the neck, yes, but not in the mid back, started contracting so fiercely from stress and trauma that it caused contractions around my rib cage to my chest,
mhm,
where I would turn a certain way, reach into the dishwasher to get something, and it felt like I was having a heart attack.
mm, mhm,
Because I know what I know it wasn't a heart attack, but I kept having these constrictions going on because I had been so active until this point, and then I just stopped. And
mhm,
so my body at rest started to constrict. My testosterone and my progesterone, because I was in such a state of stress and my cortisol were so high that for a year, months, like the longest time, the obvious symptoms that I couldn't see was hormonal acne because my testosterone was running so high because I had been in fight or flight for so long and didn't
mhm.
realize it. And then I had
Well,
the
wait, can I
obvious.
stop you there for a second? Remember
Mhm.
what you're about to say, but I think it's interesting that the fight or flight is a reasoning behind acne. And I'm assuming this is with adults and
Testosterone rises.
yeah,
That's what causes the hormonal acne.
interesting.
So,
So it's
well, causes that, yes,
true
in
stress.
addition to the hormone replacement therapy that I was, so it was overdose basically because my body was producing so much.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And you need to run when fight or flight, men in the back in the day, that adrenaline, that all of that.
Yeah.
And so,
Got to come out somewhere.
yes,
If you're not doing
toxins,
this, it has to come out somewhere.
eczema,
Yeah.
psoriasis that I had had that's now gone as the trauma. And then for the most part, was flaring up like crazy for the last, year, I'd say, and I couldn't figure out why.
Isn't
It
that
was stress.
interesting?
It
Yeah.
was stress.
Stress is
And
98% of our
yes.
issue.
And then it was the obvious of waking up in the middle of the night in panic attacks,
Hmm.
fists clenched, jaw clenched,
Yeah.
curled up in a ball, just heart rate skyrocketing. And once you wake up in the middle of the night and realize this is what's going on, this is where I am, this is what, and then all of a sudden it's just, phew. And I read somewhere that the definition of overwhelm is life happening at a rate that your psyche and nervous system cannot handle. Like life unfolding so quickly at such a fast rate that your nervous system can't keep up, your psyche can't keep up. And that's exactly what I felt like.
Oh,
In addition to falling out of an air, being pushed out of an airplane. That's what I basically refer to it as, was the moment that someone just said, figure it out, and pushed me out of this airplane, and I'm falling and falling and falling and
did
had
you
to figure out.
this is an
That's what I felt like.
oh, it felt like that.
That's what it felt like. Yes.
Okay. Now,
So
let me make sure I get this down because I think I'm going to put this in the description. Life happening at a rate that is so fast for the nervous system.
life unfolding at a rate so fast that the nervous system and psyche can't handle it or can't keep up or,
And
yeah,
mm, can't keep.
overwhelm.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting because um, overwhelm is a big deal, and we aren't really, our bodies aren't meant to be in constant overwhelm.
No, and I was so overwhelmed by what I was going through and what I was about to go through, really. It was about what was ahead of me and what I was going to have to do to rebuild my life and do
Interesting.
it all, and I just, it was so overwhelming.
I've got asked this. This isn't even in the questions I was considering, but this is interesting because this tells us, how often do we stay in the present? We're either freaking out about something that happened in the past or we're freaking out about something that's about to happen in the future. And we don't even know what's going to happen because 99% of the time, whatever we're worried about or freaking out about doesn't happen the way we think it's going to
All
happen.
right. Oh, future tripping.
Yeah, future.
Well, future tripping.
Okay.
Future tripping. Oh my goodness. And
Love
I
that.
try really hard now not to future trip.
Yeah.
And so what someone said to me at the time was to repeat to myself, just stay mentally where your feet are. And literally mind body connection. Put your mind on your feet and you just think about your feet. Stay mentally where my feet are. Stay mentally where my feet are. My feet are right here, right now with me in the present moment. That's it. This is all that matters right now. I don't need to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't need to worry about how I'm going to restart and rebuild my life.
Mm-hmm.
I can't worry about what happened in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but just need to stay right here, right now.
That in and of itself right there, and you had mentioned a little piece of this before, it's like when we focus, that's what the mind is for. The mind is not to ruminate. The mind is not there to freak us out about the past or the future. The mind is supposed to be there to focus on where we're at or what we're doing. Like you were talking about the bicep exercises, right? If you're focus your mind, when you use your mind to focus, you can actually, I've done this before. If you focus on heating up your hand or your finger or something like that, if you focus on that, it heats up or whatever you're trying to get it to do. I've read that before. So
Yeah.
your mind is hugely powerful, but we're trying not to use it for the wrong things.
And you can't, right. And it's hard. It's hard to mentally not go back to the past and not replay it over and over again. But we know, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? You constantly replay that in your mind, you are releasing those same chemicals that were released at the time of the trauma.
Yep.
So by staying stuck, you're staying stuck in your trauma. You know this. And sometimes we just can't help it. And then we're like, we need to think about the future. We need to think about where we're going. But then you're future tripping,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a very interesting balance between not going back and not, and you actively have to think about it. I'm thinking about that again. Okay, I need to stop thinking about that because those are the chemicals being released in my body right now,
Right.
which cause the trauma, cause the tension, cause the injury, cause this,
But the
because
reminder piece of it can, from my own experience, really can only happen from doing the healing work. Because
correct.
you're in the middle of a dissociation or you're dysregulated and you don't have anybody around you to regulate you and you can't regulate yourself, that's when you go back into the past and into the future. But when you, as you do the healing work, you have the tools to remind yourself to not do that, just like you're saying. Because I couldn't, when I, the last time I dissociated, I had enough tools where I could remind myself, hey, let's just see what this is about. And I watched myself dissociate instead of just blanking out and not knowing what the heck happened. So
Right.
in being in that observer perspective, you can tell yourself, like you're saying, wait, hold on, let's see what's going on here, and then just finding that tool to help you work through it instead of
Right.
freaking out.
We all can't just turn it off. It doesn't work that way. We're human.
Right.
But there are tools such as, motivational speeches in the morning that I listen to that if I start to go down the rabbit hole of thinking about, I just turn my phone on and just start to play them. And it takes you out of that
Oh, 100%.
victim mindset.
Yeah.
Oh, woe is me, this happened to me,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, I'm no different than anybody else. Everybody has trauma because the degree of trauma depends on you and your life and your upbringing and your DNA and your representation of it. A breakup can be just as traumatic as a parental death, a parent dying. And it can present in so many different ways, the symptoms, the not being able to concentrate, not liking crowds, not liking. So, it doesn't matter the degree of the trauma that you decide that, but the mind is where you have to focus on exercising into the getting out of that trauma and into a positive mindset. And it just like exercising your bicep, you have to exercise your brain to do that. It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah. And the other, well, the that makes a lot of sense. I think also from, I always come from my own experience. I try to share, what I've learned. But when you talk about like the trauma itself, it's the perception can come from also, everybody has a different perception of trauma based off of their own sensitivities. I mean, there's so many different caveats to all
Yeah.
of this related to that. But and it doesn't even have to be something so severe.
Right.
Any little micro trauma can cause some people to just completely lose it. And that doesn't make them wrong or bad or anything. It just means that's how their body reacts because that's what they know in that moment. But in healing that part of it, like I'll always go back to the healing piece because I really believe that that's what creates our power, our strength. I mean, this person that you see here talking right now, I hid in the closet when I was a child, and then I hid in my dissociation when I was an adult. So I did
Yeah.
all of this because I didn't know what else to do, and nobody ever taught me. And so these traumas, again, they're not, and I want to emphasize a lot, in most cases, the trauma, it wasn't your fault that happened, but it is your responsibility to heal from it.
Absolutely. It absolutely, because hurt people.
Yeah.
And if you don't heal from your trauma, you are going to continue the cycle, whether it's generational or
Mm.
whether it's in your personal relationships or whether it's in your intimate relationships. It's your responsibility to heal from that trauma and not just project it out into the world and keep it going.
Yeah.
But people don't want to self-reflect. They shut down or they make up their own story in their head to change the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they do, and I've done it before too, before I actually started hitting it hard. But what's interesting is that sometimes we're not choosing to do that. We're doing it to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's true
So it's
too.
yeah, so it's like, how do you distinguish between all of this stuff? How do you figure all this stuff out? Well,
That's what we're here for.
that's the journey. It's not like a one time, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart. I got to fix it and I got to fix it now. It doesn't work that way. Again, I will say I have been doing this for over 30 years. So I was 27 when I started and I'm 60 now. So please, it takes a long time, or it took me a long time to do it. And for me, that's why I want to do this work and share this information and share, people who know what they're doing in working with other people, out to everyone, because there's a quicker way of doing it if someone's guiding you
Yes.
and
And
gain this information.
it's funny because my sister had said to me even before she had said, I don't know anyone else that does the work like you do the work, whether it's after every breakup or after every trauma that I've had. Or and she said, you do the work, you
Mhm.
take the time, you
Mhm.
do the work. And all of that is learning and growing. And that's why I say I want to be the person that I needed most on my darkest days, but I want to teach everyone what worked for me along the way
Yeah. Yeah.
because I didn't just wake up and say, okay, I have the tools. I'm going to get up out of bed and I'm going to do this. It
Mhm.
didn't work that way. And everybody kept saying, you're so strong. You're so strong. And I remember saying to my father, what if I'm not that strong? What if I just can't do it this time? What if I have undergone so many traumas that I'm just done fighting and coming up from the ashes and I don't want to do it anymore? Even when he said to me, you go back to being a personal trainer. I don't want to be a personal trainer anymore. Like, I just would, and everything they said, the chemicals in me were so high, and I was high in testosterone, and everything was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you basically, was like, wait, I got this. I do have the tools in my toolkit, and I do know how to do this. And I may not be that strong today, but every day I'm going to work on it just a little bit more. And, almost a year later,
Yeah,
wow.
I know what you mean. I mean, and for me, what's so great about doing this or sharing this information and doing the podcast and everything is and also the old soul highly sensitive and empath group that I have. It's like I'm meeting people who not only share the same desire to do the work, but they're also there to support me. And I'm like, whoa, okay, this is interesting, because I didn't have that experience throughout my life
Right.
until I started doing, because every time I did what you're saying, every time something happened and I went back and I did the work, and it's like I love hearing that, because I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one who does it. Yeah. So I just felt so empowered every single time that I stepped in to do it. And this is a good segue into this next question I have. How does that relate? And this is really important at this time, without getting into anything too deep. How does this relate to our awakening as women and what's going on right now in the world and on the planet? Because we've got Mother Earth, which is the planet, right?
Hmm.
And we see all these things that are happening with Mother Earth.
Hmm.
How does our awakening as women relate to that? Can you get into that a little bit? Because your work is mostly with women, right? Isn't that's the yeah.
Yes. I work with both.
Okay.
I work with anybody who wants to better themselves and heal. Women tend to relate to this traumas and the situations, but in the midlife crisis and the reinvention
Hmm.
after your kids go to school or whatever, it is. But it's been very interesting as far as the awakening with women, and not speaking so much on like the world awakening, but even in my own personal awakening to the relationship with other women. When I said earlier that I felt as though I was pushed out of an airplane and had no idea what was going on, one of my actual motivational speeches is that story of being pushed out of an airplane and falling and reaching behind me for my parachute cord and not being able to find it and what happens next.
Mm,
And I was embraced by such a small, intimate, but amazingly strong, supportive group of women when I landed back in the United States. And I, prior to that, had always been this strong, independent woman. I can do it on my own. I don't need anybody else's help. And I'm always pulling in that masculine energy, right? I got this. I got this.
that doesn't always work.
Oh no. Oh no. And let me tell you what,
Uh,
the women that caught me and made sure that I landed safely, so to speak, right, were my parachute. And I don't want to give away too much of my, story, but I my relationships with women changed.
mm,
I didn't look at it anymore as I have to fend for myself. I turned and said, wow, together we can do hard things, which basically became my slogan. And it was women helped me to rebuild my life. And my best friend who I lived with for 5 months, he's a guy. He helped me too. But no, I mean, women helped me with networking and women helped me with branding and women helped me. And I began to reroot and ground to Mother Earth and
mhm.
remember that this is where we started. This is where women came from. If you go all the way back to the Bible, and I'm not even going to get, religious on it, but basically, women supported women in the community while the men went out and they would hunt and they would take care. And women were a group of women working together to raise children, to provide for the families, to do everything. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me because although I had been there to support other women through traumas, but I can look back and say I wasn't there enough. I wasn't there when this friend went through that, like she is for me right now. And so also became to look at other women in the world and seek out women like you who are working to help that grow and stay strong and connect the women and fight for our rights to our bodies, for our right to vote, for our right to whatever it is that we've already fought for that we want to keep, that
Mm,
we have. It was just a very growing experience. I mean, I really feel like I came out of this shell and just my heart burst open. And I thought, I mean, it's amazing to finally be able to be in my feminine energy and
mhm.
have that all around me. Because for so long, and even through my relationship, I always had to be the one to handle everything, to be in control of everything, to keep the household while, they weren't there, he wasn't there, or always pulling in that masculine energy, right? And
Yeah,
it's just so nice to
yeah.
feel to be your natural self.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what women need. We need to understand the truth of who we are. I mean, I still struggle with a lot of that because I don't have a lot of people around me and a lot of some of that's intentional because of I'm an empath and highly sensitive, so I have to step
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
But the thing is that I continue to find people like you just said, like me, like you, where I can start connecting with them so I could start feeling the truth of who I am as a woman because I did the same thing. Interestingly, one of my traumas while growing up is I knew for a fact in my mind that my father did not want a girl, he wanted a boy, right? So I had a reading a couple of weeks ago, and then I did an interview with the person who did the reading on me, a medium. This did not come up during the medium reading, but it came up on the interview. My dad came through, and he
Mhm.
apologized for not for he even said it through her. And I'm like, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know anything about my dad. I did not talk to her about any of this stuff. And she said, he said that he was sorry for wanting a boy or some words that I
Wow.
was like, holy crap. And it just took all this away. about having to strive. I joined, one of the reasons I even joined the army to begin with was because I wanted to make him proud of me
Hmm.
as that boy, right? And it
Yeah.
didn't do that for anybody because he still wasn't proud of me, I don't think. In his lifetime, now that he's gone, he seems to be proud of me, or he is proud of me, because that's what came through. But in the meantime, when I was all that stuff was going on, there was none of that. And now it's like I know after all the work that I've done that I am a strong and powerful woman. If I could sit here in front of everybody after everything that I've been through and talk about my stuff and share other people's experiences and how they got through it and how they're helping other people, to me that's strength. I don't
Right.
um I don't know how to look at it in any other way. And the other piece of it too is like for centuries, eons, we have been like, here's woman, here's men, society, and it's like we have this in our DNA of being squashed.
Hmm.
And we're not weak. We're not, we can be sensitive, but we can also be sensitive in a very powerful way. We use our sensitivity for healing and for,
Right.
for caring about each other and sharing our gifts and all that kind of stuff. But we're not like wimps. They talk about the P. I don't even know if I should put this on there, but they talk about the P word. That ain't, you push a
You
10
can push a baby out of there. That's what they say, right?
ain't
I
weak,
mean,
man. I don't care what you think.
the ligaments and tendons soften so that your hips can open up wide and you can
Hey,
push a baby
hey,
out.
for
Like
those of us who
cartilage, I'm
labor
sorry.
for 18 hours, that ain't no simple thing.
Right.
Guys, I don't see how. I know of guys who like scream it. They're like, yeah, I couldn't even think about doing something like that. So, having women think that they're not good enough because they're not a man or whatever reason, or they weren't daddy's boy or whatever, or because they're for whatever any of that stuff is. Here's the thing: women are the givers of life. I don't care who you are, but we're the ones who bring all the children into the world, right? Even the ones that are saying, and I don't want to get political on this piece either, but I have to. It's like your body, my choice is all over the place out there, but you came from your mother. Just saying, take that into consideration.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you wouldn't, I hope you wouldn't I mean, I don't know what kind of relationship everybody had with their mother, but they still came from a woman. I
It's
can't even go
true.
space. I don't even know where to go with that one, but
Um,
I don't want women to think that you're less than because somebody feels like that they can impose their manliness or whatever onto you. That's all separation stuff. We're supposed to be, women are here now doing this work to bring people together, not to separate anymore.
right.
And the healing process is all part of that, regardless of all this stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
I've experienced it myself and it hurt, but it doesn't mean that I hold like, I don't feel like I hold judgment against anybody for what they're doing or saying. I feel like I hold uh what's the word I'm looking for? Compassion, because they don't understand or they don't know better, because
Right.
we're all human. We all put our pants on the same way. Just
Right.
because someone's got a different, but it creates an environment where people are cruel to each other on both sides of anything, whether you're male, female, or any other gender, or whether you're whatever. Enough with the separation. But I feel like that's why so many women are here healing, because we're meant to bring that life back to the planet, and we're meant to bring life to the planet, because
Right.
Earth is really shaking things up right now too. you know
Right.
so that's where that was the question, the piece of it about the world, because that's what's happening. It's like you pushed us, it pushed women so far that we're kind of
Pushing back.
power now. I don't know, but our power is different than our power is more compassionate.
Right. Because women are the receivers, men are the providers, women are the receivers. And it's it's not meant to be other, it's in your innate being of who you are,
Yeah.
right? Just like your DNA and the lineage and being passed down to you. You
Hmm.
don't get to decide that. Men are the hunter-gatherers. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why hunting to them is such a thrill, and you can't even blame them for wanting to do it if they do, because
Natural.
that's what they were born to
It's
do,
natural.
right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
hunt and to provide and to,
And there's another interesting piece that I've also realized too is that, and years ago I read this, Native American culture sees the woman as the protector for the men of their emotions. They hold space for the men for the emotions.
yes,
The men are the protector of the woman for the physical strength, because we're not meant to be that powerful, strong physically. It's not, I mean, we can be. That's not the point, but it's like they protect us in the physicality of their strength, and we protect them in the emotion, the heart, the emotionality of it, and it
right,
blends and balances that way. And that's the way it's supposed to be. These are old indigenous cultural understandings that are thousands of years old, and you're going to tell me that this stuff that
right.
within the last couple hundred years
But
are
that only works if you have a truly enlightened partner or a truly enlightened one can be enlightened and the other can be completely,
right.
as we said earlier, misogynistic, and men run this and men do that and men, and your job is to do this and this and this. And if you're the empath and you're the, you know, however you just put it, to try to help men come to deal with their emotions, and they've learned that that's not what happens. Men don't deal with their emotions. They stay tough and and they don't.
That's teaching. That's also a teaching.
Right,
And to
right.
be honest with
And
you,
then it's passed down from generation to
yeah.
generation.
Well, that's also, I don't know how old you are. I haven't asked you, but for my generation, it's most of the men in our generation, my generation, were taught to be manly men.
Yes,
Don't cry, you don't do, that kind of thing. But it's not even about male, man, woman, woman, man. It comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes and genders, and
yeah,
I feel like our energies are the things that do that, because I've seen women who are like that with men. So I feel like a lot of the stuff that happens is more like in the teachings, in the programming that have gone on throughout however long, that we've
right,
been on this planet. Or not on the planet, but
right,
last couple of thousand years, let's just say that. And there's no again, there's no judgment. It's more, we can judge ourselves worse than we judge anybody else. So I'm not one to I'm learning, I'm understanding.
well,
Yeah. So there's a lot. I mean, the bottom line is there's a lot of stuff changing in the world, and we're here to shift, but it's not our job to shift other people out of what they believe, or out of how they feel, or out of who they are. Our job is to shift here, and
right,
be the light, be the change in the world. And then when people see that you're happy, and they see that you're joyful, they see that you're like blissing out, man, whatever, they're going to come up to you and they're going to go, hey, how do you do that?
I
You don't
want
have
that.
to say a word to anybody. You just be that. That's what Jesus was, isn't
Yeah,
it? I mean, I was raised Jewish. I read some of the Bible. I can't quote it like some people can, but in
can't
my,
either,
in my
because I was raised Jewish too. So
oh, good. Okay. Well, so in my understanding, Jesus was, it's not about, to me, it was about the person he was and the
right.
teachings that he taught, not about it just, I don't know. There's just like this connection I have. When I found out, it's so funny. I found out about him going into the temples and knocking tables over because they were sacrificing all these animals. He was a hellraiser, man. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. So we're not getting into religion or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's just what I understand about Jesus is who we are. the love, the compassion, the healing, the connection, not not anything else. I just I have to share that because it's been something that's been on my mind because it's like there's a whole different variation of what's believed about that. And it's taken me a long time because I was raised Jewish to understand what that is,
Right.
you know? So okay, this question's gonna have to be like nice and short and sweet. You got 5 minutes, baby.
Wow.
So did you have something like a significant personal trauma that you overcame or some kind of catalyst that you or similar, like you started talking about some of the stuff. Can you expound on it a little bit just to kind of share how it got you into the work that you do?
As I mentioned before, when I was going over my timeline of my biography and kind of how I got here, I had left and moved back to Costa Rica for a while, and I was engaged. And I guess that was finally the last of the trauma that my nervous system could handle after several traumas before that. And my significant other, basically, as he put it, was having a midlife crisis, and things had been a little rough due to normal life transitions in our family, sickness, transitions, graduation, moving on, different types of things going on that are normal in different families. And it was just too much. And in addition, I suffered from a basic classic narcissist discard when the rug is just pulled out from underneath you unexpectedly, and the you're on a high kind of, you're with your family for Thanksgiving and you're on a romantic vacation in Puerto Rico, and then you celebrate your anniversary, and then the next week later, I can't do this anymore. And you're going back to the United States. And then it was a very traumatic fight or flight experience that I underwent. When I landed, the trauma really started because I had got rid of everything, sold everything, got rid of my car, got rid of my place where I lived, got rid of, all these things and clients and so on and so forth, and had to restart my entire life under the direction of somebody else telling me how that would happen, when that would happen, if they would help me, how they would help me, when my things could arrive. It was really, really traumatic for someone who's normally in control of their life
Mm.
to have to give up control. And anyone who knows anything about narcissists and narcissist discards, it is extremely traumatic.
I didn't know there was
And
a word for that, but yes, I do understand about a narcissist discard.
a normal breakup is something where people sit down and or they talk about it, and one person has a say in it and the other person has a say in it, right? You normally sit down and say, look, this isn't working. We've been not getting along for a while. A narcissist discard is when they get triggered
Mhm.
and something triggers them, something you say, something you do, whatever it is.
And
And
it doesn't fit their way of thinking or whatever, right? Is that
it triggers usually it's a fear of abandonment,
yeah.
fear of insecurity, childhood trauma.
Hmm.
And when that gets triggered, these walls go up,
Yep.
and it shuts down any kind of feelings that they have for you, or any kind of, they don't realize it. Those feelings are still there,
Hmm.
but they don't realize it. And these walls go up and they're like, I'm done. We're done. I'm done
Yep.
with you. I feel nothing. And then they just pull that rug out from underneath you.
Hmm.
And it's called a discard because you have absolutely no say,
Hmm.
right? And in that case, I was in more or less a fight or flight.
Hmm.
And then I fled, and only to make matters worse, for fear of abandonment. So it was just, and then yes, eventually they say that those, when time goes on or no contact for a while, those walls start to dissipate, and then, oh, I really do still have feelings for this person. Or that really was an overwhelming situation. we were in an overwhelming situation where life was moving at a rate that the psyche and nervous system could not handle,
Yeah.
and a midlife crisis and all of these traumas, and it all came into to a head. And then what happened after that, the way that I was treated or the way that things, went down was just very, very hurtful and traumatic. And they're really, like I said before, no one else gets to decide the degree of your trauma or what qualifies as trauma.
Yeah.
What qualified for the trauma for me is that the discard happened on the exact same date and the exact same way that a previous relationship 4 years or 5 years before had ended the relationship. Through a text message on the exact same day, the exact same way.
Hmm.
And that triggered a previous trauma to be risen to the surface, if that makes sense.
It does.
And so
But it also did it also give you an opportunity to go back and figure out what that was? Why it happened at the exact same time and date or whatever. I wonder what that was
crazy.
all about. Yeah, because that's usually,
Crazy. It was a sign from the universe that as an empath, you can't fix everybody. You can't get somebody else to do the work, and you can't get somebody else to heal if they're not want to, if they're not willing to, if they don't want to, if they're not ready to.
Mhm.
And it taught me how to recognize those types of people, and now to prevent them from entering in my circle of life.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They've done so much research on how narcissists and empaths come together. Yeah, because I've experienced that a few times and obviously learned something every single time. And it's not an easy place to be. I get it. There's not much control in it. It's almost like they're the ones who were in control from the beginning.
Hmm.
Know what I mean? And you didn't realize that they were in control because you were enamored with what was going on, and it's just and little by little by little, but when they're ready to get rid of you, they don't want you anymore. Boop.
And most of the time, they've already got another source of adoration. There's usually someone else that has caught their attention and
Yeah.
is giving them that adoration. And so they turn their attention towards that other person or that other source, whether it's another woman or whether it's a hobby or whether it's a
Cell
family
phone.
member, something that is giving them this,
Yeah.
I'm great,
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
them that source that they so need. And in my case, it was more or less a covert narcissist, which is almost worse
Yeah.
because they don't even realize they're a narcissist.
Right. No, I've experienced that as well. But what's so sad, not sad, interesting, maybe sad too, is that they're also traumatized.
Exactly.
And that's why we wanted to, as
Help.
empaths, that's why we wanted to be with them to begin with, because we saw
Yes.
that pain and we're like,
Yes.
oh, let me carry you. I don't care
Oh, yes.
what way, and it didn't do us any good. And it works both ways. Again, it's not just a
Oh, absolutely.
narcissist and a
Absolutely. I had my own issues to work on, and I have since then, in being a sober woman, and learning how to be around other people and dealing with, I mean, that's a whole nother episode, but it was really eye-opening that what the trauma led me to and led me to realize about myself, and the need to control things, and then because of my sobriety and so on and so forth. And so I can be forever grateful for the trauma because I've become such a better person and realized that I could have done this a long time ago and things would have been a lot different. But it's our nature to want to help and to want to make you feel
yeah.
better and want to heal you. And now I'm
I have to say something about that because I think, well, what if I had understood this and healed this for way before this, then this would have never happened. Okay, but isn't it a good thing that it did happen? Or
yes,
or you wouldn't be who you are right now. I wouldn't be
yes,
who I am at this point. I mean, I'm human. I make mistakes. I do stupid things. I say stupid things. Okay. I also learned how to forgive myself for doing
exactly,
and I do
exactly.
my best to try and make up for it with somebody else or
Yeah,
work on making up with it if they allow me,
yeah,
that sometimes you can't do that, because I attempted with quite a few people in my life to do something like that, and they were like, nope, don't want to have anything to do with you. So what do? You got to forgive yourself at some point because you can't sit in that your entire life and swallow yourself up in it. You still have
Yeah.
to live your life.
And I can honestly say that I am who I am becoming because of what happened.
Yeah.
And I know I can look back and say, I dimmed my light so much so someone else could shine brighter to the
Oh,
point where my accomplishments and
yeah.
my milestones in life were so unimportant to
Yes. Yes.
that person,
I get
but
that.
yet theirs were,
Oh,
oh my goodness. And it
here.
was,
You
yes. And
I'll just hang out back here. It's okay to talk
yes,
about me.
yes, but
Yeah.
and I think that it's a lot of times, picking out my faults when I'm so busy overlooking someone else's, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm always like, I understand because you've suffered a lot of trauma and you went through this and you deal with this and you have this. But nobody ever said, you know what, I understand because you've suffered this and you went through this and I'll give you a pass on this. Instead,
Right.
it's here's that damn spotlight and we're just going to shine it on all of your faults.
Yeah.
Mine don't matter
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm perfect. And it's just an interesting catalyst, but it has definitely I have always had this dream as a little girl and this vision of seeing myself up on stage speaking to women, and I never really understood what it meant. And when I came back, and after everything that I went through and everything that I've been healing from, because it's an everlasting journey of healing,
Hmm.
I can honestly say that yes, I am going to do what I'm going to do because of what happened. But it all started the day that I landed here. I mean, it is because of that.
Hmm.
But my journey and my path is my journey and my path alone from this day that I landed here and moved forward.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right.
And that's
If
why
that
you
makes
do,
sense.
like, that goes back to the first question, or basically the first couple of questions. That's why you do what you do, is because you went
Right.
through the experience and you understand what that's like, and you know what people feel like. And as healers or therapists or healers, but in the healing world, to help the helping world, whatever it is, the empath helping world,
Yes.
you don't have to be that far ahead of somebody. You can be like 5 steps ahead of somebody, but you still know how to share,
Yeah.
and you keep going. And the more you know, the more you can still continue to help, to be there to support
Yes.
somebody.
And
But
you can only help the people who want to be helped.
exactly. But and we're not meant necessarily to get, like, what I've experienced through my healing journey is um things worked up to a certain point in most cases. This is me being the healee, right? It worked and then it stopped working. I don't know why it stopped working. It might have been me. It might have been the person I was working with. Maybe they weren't at a further, like, I've experienced people that I've worked with that I don't want to work with them anymore because I've gone further, that I need something that they can't provide. So it's
Right.
okay, just because
Right.
some there's so many research. You go, you do it, you learn it, you heal yourself, and then if it doesn't work anymore, okay, don't hang on, move to the next level,
Right.
and just keep going.
Right.
And that's all
Yeah.
part of the process, but it's all about sovereignty, it's all about healing, it's all about here you this is what counts, because if you cannot be that life or the lighthouse, if you cannot be the person putting on the mask first, you can't help anybody anyway. So it
Correct.
it doesn't make a difference. Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. This is my favorite part, so you just answer it however you see fit. What does awakening mean to you at this time on the planet?
What does awakening mean to me at this time on the planet? For myself, enlightenment, the words that come to mind, enlightenment, eye-opening, and following your true calling
Mm-hmm.
and standing up for yourself
Okay.
and being able to truly be your authentic self.
That's
I think that all
Yeah.
feels really enlightening,
Yeah.
eye-opening.
Yeah. Thank you. That's good. What is soul divinity to you?
Hmm. Again, I think that listening to your inner being, knowing how to recognize what it's saying to you, being aware and staying true to yourself, right?
Mhm.
The word divinity is tricky in there, but for years I've had tattooed on my arm ING that stands for your inner being, your intuition, or inner guide from Gabrielle Bernstein. And I used to laugh to myself and say, in one of her books, and I used to say, always listen to your inner being, listen to your inner guide and to your soul and your spirit. And then I would say, and I never do it. It's tattooed right here, but I never do it. And now I do.
Yeah, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the guide, I think. What is God or source to you?
To me, the universe, Mother Earth, Mother Nature. When I think about my inner being, my higher power, I'm sorry, my higher power, it's the universe, it's Mother Nature. And for me, I do believe, yes, that there, as being raised Jewish, that there is a God, but for me, it's more of a connection to the universe, right?
Isn't that interesting?
And I feel more grounded when I'm out in the woods than anywhere else, surrounded by, or in the rainforest, surrounded by Mother Nature, reconnecting to that primal instinct of what created us, the circle of life, all of that.
Yeah, it's
You-
interesting you said that because, and I've mentioned already, I was raised Jewish as well, and I had such a disconnect. And what the way I describe it is, the Jewish people write the word God G dash D. And I could never understand what that was for years. Nobody taught me the deep stuff.
Right,
They just said, this is what you got to do, and this is what you can't do, and this is what you can do. And a lot of people go through that, with religion or whatever. But there was such a disconnect for me with that word, and I never felt connected to God. I don't even think I felt connected until couple of years ago, really. It was interesting because I was doing this ascension type of work, like meditation type of thing. And I sat there before I started doing, and part of the work is using the word God. A lot of people use the word God. They use, some
mhm,
word. Most people use the word God, let's put it that way. And something hit me to use the word Hashem. And I was like, and I found out that that's actually a word for God after I picked it. It was downloaded into me, and I used that, and that felt okay to me. And I don't know why, but
right,
but that disconnect lasted for my entire life. That I was looking at every other religion and that I could get my hands on, and trying to understand what all that meant, and this and that. And it was like this more downloads, unconditional love. It's love. It's love. It's love. It has nothing to do with what the religions specifically are saying. It's about God being love. And so then I could start reconnecting back as I was connecting myself to myself. Then I could start, and like you were saying, Mother Earth, that's a big thing for me because I never felt like I was connected. I've been in Baptist churches, I've been in Catholic churches, I've been in Hindu temples, I've been in Buddhist temples, and I never felt that force. But when I'm out in Mother Nature and, whatever, that's where I feel it. So I don't know. That's an interesting likeness there, that because I felt
right.
that exact same thing when you were saying that. I'm like, wow, okay, this is interesting. Huh. Okay, so speaking of which, the next question is what is unconditional love?
To me, like I said a few minutes ago, unconditional love is loving someone and accepting someone in spite of all their faults or personality flaws or whatever you want to call it.
Humanness.
Humanness, thank you.
Yeah.
I've it I don't think I ever really truly experienced unconditional love that I've given to another human until my last relationship. That was really unconditional love, being able to accept someone for exactly who they are and look past their traumas and their faults to be there for them. And we don't all receive that back,
Mm.
that unconditional love, right? But at least I know that I'm capable of it now, right?
So I want to ask you something that I have not asked anybody else, but because of how you answered that, I'm going to answer that or ask this question. How do you see yourself as being the recipient of that unconditional love? Because you're talking about other people, but you didn't say
Mm.
anything about you. And I was curious to see what that was for you.
For me to receive it.
No, just here, you, yourself,
Oh,
and you, unconditional love. Well, what is it? What does that mean to you? I know that's
I
a
struggle with that one
yeah.
because I'm so hard on myself. And I think that I'm learning through this process that unconditional love for myself means not being so hard on myself and accepting myself exactly where I'm at and one day at a time. And this is where
Mhm.
I am today, and this is okay. And if you go back 2 steps, that's okay too, because in a couple, next day you're going to be forward those steps again. And to be able to look back and say, look at how far I've come.
Mhm.
But it's okay to be not okay one day and not be so hard on yourself and to love yourself unconditionally because I'm not perfect. And all any human ever wants is for someone else to accept them and love them unconditionally.
To love and be loved. Yep.
Love and be loved unconditionally.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important, especially with, the work with the women or talking about women and that sort of thing. It's like I think that's part of our DNA is love and compassion. Not that men obviously don't have love, but there's a piece of that where we're so hard on ourselves because life has been so hard on us that we forget
Mhm.
how to unconditionally love ourselves. And
Yep.
I want to say something because it's here. It's like you
Mhm.
are such a strong, powerful, gentle, sweet
Oh,
woman.
you.
And I see that in you. And and I get it. I understand what you're saying. And it's like what I see in me, I see in you, and it's like you have the capacity and beautiful externally and internally, you have the capacity to love that part of you, of who you are. That truth, that's the truth, you know? So being able to recognize that and remember it and go back to it and go back to it and go back to it over and over and over again. I'm saying this as much for me as I am for you, and
Right.
everyone else who ends up listening to this if I keep it in. um, I think that it's important as humans, women, men, and all other genders, whatever you see yourself as, that love, that self-love, that unconditional self-love is the ticket to the healing and the sovereignty and finding the truth. And that's huge. But I had to say something. I picked up
Thank
on
you.
something.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that part of that is also in this new era of being is that it feels so good to just be able to be myself.
Mhm.
And that is what everyone has said to me since I've returned is that they see that energy that they say it's Debbie 2.0 because it's a different of finally saying, I have been broken down to bear nothing. You take away everything from me.
Mhm.
And this is really, truly who I am.
But that's,
Unapologetically who
yeah,
I am. Take it or leave it.
right. And
And I can be in my feminine energy now, and I don't have to be on guard, and I don't have to
right.
all together.
And that's part of the process is just also believing that about yourself. Like we tell ourselves this kind of stuff over and over and over and over. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe it takes three or more people to say it. And it's like, oh, huh, okay. Now I guess I could take a look at that. That's the
You
kind of,
do
that's what,
something with it.
yeah.
You
So
do
I just
something.
want, I just
It'll be
want you,
good.
I want you to hear that
Thank
deeply.
you.
I want other people to hear that deeply because I picked up on um, there's a part of us that don't believe that for ourselves. Like we're always thinking about the other person loving us, but we don't think about us loving us.
Right.
And it's a challenge, but that's what we get to, that's why we're here. Yay.
And I think what you're doing is amazing, and I can feel that energy from you too. And I think that, again, together we can do hard things and we can bring this light to the world and to other women.
We're
And
walking each other home.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so yes, absolutely. So this is an easy question, and then I got one more. Um,
Okay.
how can people get in touch with you?
So all of my information is on my website, which is dbwellbeing.com, all one word, no hyphen. My Instagram is at Deb Wellbeing because someone took the other one.
And
Facebook's Debi Borger,
just so
Borger.
you know, we're going to be putting all this information in the
Yes,
description below too. So,
yes,
I
in
saw
in the
your
show notes. So
everywhere.
yes,
She is
yeah,
everywhere.
exactly. You can put my LinkedIn. I gave you all the
Yeah,
information.
yeah,
But the easiest way to find me, obviously, and connect is on my website,
yeah.
dbwellbeing.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And the last thing I wanted to ask is that is there anything else you would like to share or add before we go?
One of the things that was amazing to me when I came back was the amount of women from years before who I hadn't spoken to in years, and women that I speak to every day that connected with me to tell me that they had been through similar situations, that they had been in, narcissistic relationships and that trauma, and that they have gone through similar situations and wanted to share their stories.
Hmm.
And all I can say to the other women out there is keep sharing, keep talking, keep supporting one another, because every time you get it out, you get it out, and a little bit more of it leaves. And even the tiniest little sentence of what you say could be the one thing that helps another woman that you may not even know you're helping. Somebody standing in line at the grocery store can hear you talking to someone else and pick up on it
Hmm.
and listen to your story or whatever the case is. Keeping trauma locked inside, like we said before, it physically will display itself in your body, your
And
skin,
in your
your
behavior.
muscle. Oh, and your behavior, of course, and your behavior and depression and everything else like that.
Yeah.
And yes, if you don't speak to someone, that depression just gets worse.
Hmm.
And yeah, just reach out and talk, and really get help for that trauma because, like I said, unhealed trauma hurt people, and you just keep it going.
Hmm.
And whether you believe in it or not, uh, it works. It really does.
Breaking the chains of generational trauma.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. I
Okay, thank
appreciate.
you.
And thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate the fact that you're following us, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, which I have been forgetting to say on every single other interview that I've done, but whatever, it's okay. It'll happen. But other than that, thank you so much. And just remember, we're human. We've all got our thing, and we're all doing the best we can. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of us. So just wanted to share that. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here. Take care.
thank you.
Bye.